This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Gear. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine. This episode is sponsored by our conservation partner, Stone Glacier. Thank you, Sitka Gear and Stone Glacier, for investing in healthy wildlife and sustainable ecosystems. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. We're back in the podcast studio here, and no stranger to the podcast, none other than world-renowned and mountain goat world record holder, Mr. Justin Kallusky, Wild Sheep Society BC Director, and a million other titles. Welcome back to the podcast, brother. Great to have you on.
Yeah, good to see you again. It's only been a couple weeks or a week now, I guess, since we've seen each other last, but it's always good. I enjoy our conversations.
Yeah, me too. And, I know we're going to talk about some other stuff today and sort of, dig into some of the things we've talked about on this podcast in the past, you and I. And it's a bit of a different tone for Talk is Sheep, but one I think that is absolutely critical and necessary. Talking a little bit about men's mental health in general. But before we do that, we got out to your neck of the woods. So we were in the Kootenay region, and we did the Bighorn workshop. We brought together, as the society, a whole bunch of great human beings that had some incredibly insightful dialogue. And right at the very vortex of all that is you yourself. And was kind of your vision to bring us to the Kootenays. And, we've gotten some... some dialogue in the past that we're not doing enough in that region. And I have to say, I agree with those comments. I think that the society needs to do more in Region 4. That's the core of our Rocky Mountain Bighorn sheep populations right there. And a lot of great people doing great things. And I want to thank you for having us out in your neck of the woods, for hosting the society, and a great event for bringing people together to talk about the Kootenay Bighorn sheep.
Yeah, that was, inspiring to say the least, to see what an incredible turnout we had from so many different people across the board, from all different walks of life here in the Kootenays, from Gov and the ministry to guide outfitters to, representatives from the invasive species council, and the a slew of other NGOs and hunters, and just people who love sheep in general. It was something else to get all those great minds in one room together and hear what everyone had to say. So, I know that there's a lot of obstacles and battles to overcome here for wild sheep, but given the turnout that we had and that passion and dedication that existed amongst that group of people, I think we have a lot to be optimistic about.
Yeah, well said. And I thought it was pretty cool. The energy in the room, everyone was sort of united in their voice, and very diverse backgrounds too, right? Like a lot of those government individuals, folks there, the East Kootenay Invasive Species Council, they're not hunters. They're not like, they're people that care about wild sheep. There was concerned residents that were there, just people that loved wild sheep and just showed up to partake in the conversations. And, the one thing that we kind of did when we showed up as a society is we hosted the event, but we showed up in region not saying, hey, we're here to fix things. And we didn't do that. And I was glad we didn't, because there's a lot of really great people doing a lot of great work. And Justin, you work with a lot of them often. You have lots of dialogue and people that have dedicated their entire life to wild sheep conservation in that region. And I think it would be a little bit disrespectful, to be honest with you, to show up and sit there and say, well, this is the way you should manage your sheep. We kind of showed up with hey, we're here to help. We said right at the start, we want to listen, we want to learn, and we want to provide the support where we need it. And I felt, and the feedback I've subsequently heard from the event was that it was well received, that it was taken in that tone. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I think, like you say, the Sheep Society didn't come in with guns blazing saying this is what you need to do and how you need to do it. But I think that really speaks to, from my perspective anyways, from what I've seen, that the philosophy of the Sheep Society is like, we're there in a supportive capacity, in all the different regions. Like we really truly do respect the local knowledge in those regions, and we're there to support um, initiatives and projects and things of that nature. Like, yeah, we do have spearheaded a few projects, but we're more in like a subsidiary, secondary role a lot of times, just providing, funding and other resources to help the people that know what's going on get the job done. So
Yeah, and I think, we kind of have a collaborative approach to things that, can we bring some resources to the table? And like you said, the funding piece. But the one thing we don't like to do is just write checks and walk away too, right? And, we get that once in a while. People just say, hey, we have this project, just send us a check and we're good. And that's kind of not how we operate for the most part. But it's not to take control over anything or to say this is our project at all. What we want is a collaborative project where we feel like a vested partner and that we can bring other things to the table too. There's the money side of things, of course, maybe some funding partners, a voice maybe in Victoria, whether it be the provincial or federal government, if in many cases, or just bringing other people to the table that we can support. So, yeah, I think you've said it really well there, Justin. That's exactly what we're there to do is try and support people and organizations. And I thought there were some very inspiring conversations throughout the day. The Yakut project that Gary Phillips spoke to, and it was a First Nations led great work being done there in conjunction with Clayton Lamb and others. And just, there was kind of a laundry list of projects like that and great work that's being done. And also an acknowledgement that there's probably more opportunity to work together. That was one of the things that I'd asked early on during the opening plenary was, does anyone here feel that we can do better for these sheep? And everyone seemed to agree. And it was not a criticism at all. It was like, okay, let's roll up our sleeves. We're here to help you guys. Let us know what we can do. And we want to be part of a solution and do what we can to support your sheep.
Yeah, it's definitely not, for a lack of people who care, and even, to an extent, like the resources. It's even like all the ministry folks who showed up, you can just tell like they didn't have to be there. And given like the current political landscape with like the strike and everything, and they know when they walk into that room, they're the ones who take the brunt of the criticism that's directed towards the government because they work for the government, but they're not the ones implementing the decisions or deciding where funding's going. But yet they came anyway. So that just speaks volumes to, how much those folks in those positions in this region, how much they really care. So, really, I guess, it really starts at the top, fundamentally, the value of wildlife, and how it's viewed by the folks up at the top end down in Victoria. So, that is that's a tough one for us folks who are down here in the Kootenays and just representing these organizations and stuff. People such as yourself and other people who have those avenues to go in and speak on behalf of all of us and our interests. It's going to take continued effort on that front to get government to understand that wildlife and habitat is very important to a lot of people here.
Yeah, well said. And that's the one thing I did notice about the ministry staff there is that they were very vested. Nobody showed up from the ministry sort of just for the free lunch. They were there. There was presentations. We asked a few of the individuals to speak, talk, and just off the cuff, like, hey, would you mind give us an update on what's going on with ministry staff with this reorg? And I was impressed, really impressed, and you could see the passion. And I felt like, and it was interesting. There was some frustration with government in that room, but it wasn't directed to local staff. I would say I felt it was directed more to, like you said, to Victoria, and just to the greater, need to prioritize wildlife in the Kootenays. It wasn't sort of, nobody said, hey, you guys in the region need to do a better job. I'm sure there's some rubs there too, but very respectful. And I feel like it was, we were all on the same page in that room on 95% of the issues we talked about. So yeah, really inspiring. I want to congratulate you on bringing us there, Justin, and your leadership. And you've been on the board now for a couple of years, and that's one of the things you said. I'm not just going to be a guy that sits here and does nothing and votes, and I'm going to be active. And you've done a ton of work, and you've identified, some of the weaknesses that we have in Region 4 as a society, and you worked to address them. You brought us all there, and we wouldn't have done it without you. I don't think. So hats off to you, brother.
Yeah, thanks. It's been a really kind of endearing process, conservation and learning, a lot of patience throughout that process. It's not one of my stronger suits, but yeah, I definitely have had to step back and just look at the long-term picture, and really it's kind of neat to know that and I think it's a lesson actually that is worthwhile sharing, is that it's the little things that we do. It doesn't have to be like this great big monumental donation, or you don't have to have this incredible skill set or a degree. You just have to be someone who cares and is willing to donate a bit of your time, get out into the community, make connections, and all that. You guys coming here was kind of just a culmination of all those things that I mentioned. And so, if and nothing else, it's definitely inspired me to stay the course and to keep on going, because it might not happen quickly, but there's no I don't know, no effort that's too small that doesn't go unnoticed. Like, every little thing makes a difference. So
Yeah, well said. Okay, so let's just sort of branch off here a little bit, talk a little bit. We had you on over a year ago now. I think it was November of 2024, and we talked about your personal journey and some of the things that you've dealt with, and some challenges you've had in your life, and how wildlife and wild sheep in particular, and mountain goat hunting, and your experience with the Kallusky goat has impacted your life and enriched your life. And you talked a little bit about your personal growth just now, and I think we want to dive a little bit more into that. So I'm really keen to chat with you more on this. We're coming into a tough time of year for a lot of people. It's November, December is always a challenging time for all kinds of people, and certainly mental health issues for men for sure, and others as well. And I'd love to chat with you about that and sort of open up and talk more on your journey.
yeah, it was really really great last year when we got to get together in November, which was Mental Health Awareness Month, and have a little discussion around mental health and mental health awareness. For everyone, but for men, I guess, more so. That's the population that both of us represent, the demographic. So, yeah, I guess if someone was asking, like, well, what's the point? Why are you on here talking about this? Well, for one, it's really important to near and dear to my heart. Mental health is something that I have struggled with and managed to overcome. And like, as you said, a large part of that, or what I can contribute that to, is many different things. But wildlife and nature and the outdoors and hunting, certainly is atop of that list. So I think the important thing here that to take away is, like, you hear about to normalize things. Like you hear that phrase tossed around a lot, to normalize it. Well, what is normalizing it? It's kind of what we're doing here right now. It's just a couple guys, normal guys, getting together, having a conversation. And if I wasn't willing to get on here and have this talk and let people know, like, my story and what's happened, they would never know. And by me coming on here and just having an honest conversation, it can allow people to relate and not feel like they're alone, that there's other people that have experienced what they are experiencing and going through. And I think that's an important job that we have to do in just as human beings.
Well, and we kind of have a responsibility to do that too, I think, Justin. And I think with this modern era of social media and like all these electronic things, I work from home. I look at myself in the office and I sit here for 8 hours. I don't really see anyone. I have no like physical interaction with somebody. I maybe talk to someone or I Zoom somebody, but it's a different world. And it's certainly not like, if you have anyone has any sort of attachment to like the evolution, like, what we used to do 100 or 200 years ago, there was no electronic communications. It's just not what we did. So I feel like now more than ever as human beings, like we're like that human connection there's elements of that we've lost. We just have it. There's no way, shape or form. We used to be small communities, small villages, tribes, for example. And that stuff is all out the window. It's completely changed. And I think as humans, we adapt, but we don't adapt immediately. It takes a long time. And if we look at what we've gone on, like you think of, my grandpa died in 1977. And I think about him. He never knew what a cell phone was. Like, that wasn't that freaking long ago. Like I was around then. And like cell phones didn't exist. The internet didn't exist. None of this stuff existed. And like, there's parts of us that have parts of our society has changed so significantly, and I don't think we're really well adapted to it just yet.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think you bring up a few really important points there. The accelerated rate of change that we've experienced over the last like 50, not even like, let's just say 30 years, with the advent, the invent or uh sorry of social media and cell phones and computers and all that. And then you talk about like evolution, that's on like such a huge scale, like that's millennia. And so there's no wonder we haven't really had a lot of time. Like, we're still figuring out what the effects of some of this stuff is on people, our relationships, the human brain, things like that. So definitely, yeah, it's not a coincidence that there's a greater degree and level of dissatisfaction um, in people's lives right now. Like, all you need to do is go on social media, and I mean, I don't know how that stuff gets on mine, but there's all these like feeds and all these advertisements for like all these uh it's like a magic bullet fixes, I'll call them, for all different kinds of things, for getting in shape, for weight loss, for fixing your relationships, for better clarity. Like, it's on and on and on and on. And we're just inundated with these like get fixed quick type of like schemes that are going on um, within social media and stuff. But I think that there's a greater awareness, a shift, you might say, in culture right now to getting back to the old ways.
Mm-hmm.
like these traditions and these ways of thinking and these philosophies that have been around for thousands of years. And for myself, that has been what I have gravitated towards and leaned into on my own journey, of self-discovery and healing and whatnot.
Yeah, very cool. And I think that, as a society, we're craving that. And I think that's why we see like our in-person events, they're well attended. People want to be part of something. They want that face to face. They want to be part of they want their tribe back, because they're not getting it. They're just, it's weird. We've only been in the Comox Valley here for 2 years, but I go to the grocery store and I don't know anybody. I just don't. I'm not, I'm pretty active, involved in the sheep community, but I'm not really actively involved in my own community. I guess. I guess, I don't know, but for some reason, I go to the grocery store. I don't recognize anybody, like nobody. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, yeah. I've lived in Cranbrook here for I don't know, going on almost 4 years, and I kind of feel the same way. And that is kind of like the Western sort of philosophy and the way that society operates over here. Like, I've been fortunate enough to do a little bit of traveling, and in other countries, like, the sense of community and family and the togetherness is just, it's so inspiring. Where here in the West, we're kind of, you know, this overarching sort of philosophy that's lying in behind the weeds in the dark is that it's like we're all separate. There's not enough to go around. We're all in competition with each other. And it's like, you know, and that's kind of what drives this separateness here. But yeah, there definitely are communities out there. If you got to get out and look for them and seek them. But things like meditation classes, yoga classes, different fitness type orientated classes, Buddhism stuff. Like, there are people that are thinking outside the box, that are getting together and nurturing that community orientated sort of uh, philosophy, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, lots to talk about and unpeel there, but I think tonight we wanted to talk a little bit more stuff, a little closer to home in terms of some of your experiences and some of the things that you've gone through. And we scratched the surface for anyone that's listening that maybe doesn't know Justin that well. We had a really interesting and I would say deep discussion last November, a year, 13 months ago. And, I know that there's been a lot of journey to discovery for you personally in the last year as well. So, I just kind of want to sort of, pick your brain on some of those paths that you've taken and sort of your journey to self-discovery and how you've evolved as a person, I guess.
Yeah. So, when we talk about mental health, I mean, that can encompass like a slew of different things, all the way from like very, very severe conditions, all the way down to things like, depression and anxiety. And I feel like those are the more common type things. And that's, what I've personally uh, dealt with in the past. So, that's what I can sort of speak to. Um, as far as, depression is concerned, um, you can sort of look at it through two different lenses. You can look at it strictly from like a Western medicine science based perspective of like you're missing, certain chemicals in your brain like serotonin or dopamine and things like that, which is kind of funny because when you come into a doctor's office and you say, yeah, I'm not feeling good, I'm feeling depressed, they can't actually measure those things. Like, they're not giving you a blood work test or any other kind of test and saying, oh yeah, your serotonin should be at this level and it's only half of that, so we're going to give you this pill to bring that up. It's basically they're throwing darts at a dartboard. And so I've experienced that myself. When I was about 25 years old, I was going through a really tough time and feeling really, really low. And, the things that normally brought me a lot of joy in my life and that brought me happiness were no longer bringing that anymore. My mood was low, my energy was low, losing interest in things. You go online and those are all the classic symptoms of depression. So, of course, I went in to the doctor's office and they're like, yep, sounds like you have depression. Here, try this pill and try this dose. And so, it's kind of it's a bit laughable, to be honest with you. Um, and then you can look at depression from another side of things, from like almost like a spiritual perspective, where depression actually is, in a way, it's your inner being, your true self, your soul trying to get your attention. It's trying to shake you up to say, hey man, like, things, you're maybe not on the right path here. You're not, staying true to who you actually are. So you can actually look at it in a different light, that, it could be a good thing.
Um, it's interesting, I think with the modern medicine, the system's just set up to like, here's the pill, go away, right? It just, and it, I hearing your journey previously, that doesn't, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't do that, because some people do need that sort of, but our medical system is predisposed, and even our business is based on that, right? Like you think of big pharma, I think it's worse down south, maybe in the U.S., but we're pretty naive if we think that we don't have an issue here in Canada, right? But the solution to everything is just to take this pill. It's going to fix it. Like you said, that quick fix on the internet, right? It's always social media. It's just do this and you're going to feel better. But the hard work, and quite often the most positive work, is the work that the self healing, really, right? And the support you're getting outside of those drugs.
Yeah, well, I think a really important note to make here is that when when you're not feeling good and you're struggling and you're suffering, there's it's almost unavoidable or impossible to not feel like what in the fuck is wrong with me? Like, how come I can't just be happy? Why does it seem so easy for everyone else? And you can get really down and really hard on yourself. And then you go into a doctor and they say, "Oh yeah, there's something wrong with you, all right." It's like they're reinforcing that belief, um, which, from my experience, I went that route. I because no one ever asked me when I went into those doctors' offices, like, if there was maybe something else underlying that was like causing that depression. Like, there's like a myriad of other things. Like, are you being healthy? Are you drinking? Are you working out? What's your diet like? What's your stress level? Like, what's your home life like? Like, all of these things are huge factors that go into your overall general health. But, they have 10 minutes and to give you until they rush the next person in. So no one ever really sits down and talks to you about those things. But I did have a doctor one day actually sit down with me. I had been on antidepressants for 15 years at that point, kind of just stuck in that cycle. Like, it would, take the edge off. It would be okay. But I always had that feeling like it could be better. Like, there's got to be more to life than this. Like, and I had a doctor sit down and actually talk to me and ask me a bunch of questions about my lifestyle and things, my past and childhood and a whole bunch of other stuff. And at the end of it, he just looked at me and said, I don't think you need these. He's like, I think that with some, you know, different types of therapy and some lifestyle changes and things of that nature, He's like, I think you can get off of these things. And I can't tell you what that did for me. Like 15 years of thinking there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me. And then to like finally have someone look at you and acknowledge and just say, there's nothing wrong with you, man. Like it was like this weight lifted off my shoulders. And I was just absolutely stoked to like start the process and start the journey.
I'm guessing though it wasn't easy because first of all, you've relied for 15 years on this thing that is supposed to fix you, and now you're taking that out of the equation, or whatever. It's no longer an excuse. I guess there must be a path to enlightenment when you went, yeah, maybe I don't need this, and maybe there's something else. But that had to be a tough journey. Like, there's no easy fix coming out of that office. Going, okay, yeah, here we start today.
Yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. And anyone who knows me knows I like to learn things the hard way, and I definitely don't take the easy path. And I think that's why I have character. So, but anyways, yeah, from anything I've been told or researched, like to come off of antidepressants is a very slow, methodical process that everything's got to be really solid in your life. Things have got to be good and stable. You generally do it in the summer when there's lots of daylight, lots of sunshine, and then you slowly wean yourself off of them because it affects the chemistry of your brain at the end of the day. But something told me that I needed to feel the full force and ferocity of all the things in my life that I had kind of been avoiding and running from over the years. So yeah, I wouldn't suggest it to anyone, but I just went off of them cold turkey in the middle of winter up in like northern British Columbia in an isolated little community during COVID. Like all the things were stacked against me, to be honest with you. And yeah, it took me to a pretty dark place for a while. But I don't know. I think sometimes you kind of have to go through that shit and be broken down and stripped away. Like we spend our lives creating this identity about who we are. Like, who is Justin? It's like, oh, well, I'm a hunter. I'm a power lineman. I love snowmobiling. I do this, I do that. At the end of the day, though, those are all just things. They're not actually like who you are in essence as a person. And so what that process did for me was it kind of like stripped all that shit away. All those perceptions and ideas of who I thought I was, it was all kind of taken away. And what I was left with was who I actually was, at kind of like on a spiritual soul level. And that was a necessity in order, it's like doing a renovation on a house. I was like stripped back to the studs, got rid of all the ugly stuff. And then you can start rebuilding, yourself in the image that you've always known you could be.
So that's tough. There's no easy way to do that, and I would say probably a little bit risky too. But obviously, talk a little bit about that process and some of what were those tools. So obviously, you made a decision. Okay, we're not going to rely on medicine anymore. We're not taking the Western medicine side. I'm going to work on self improvement and self help and focus on those. So talk me through maybe that process and talk about I don't know if you're comfortable with this, but maybe talk to the bottom, like what it was like getting to the bottom and sort of what that was like and how you got through it and what you relied on. I think lots about this. I won't waste a bunch of time because no one wants to hear about me. I want to hear about you. But we were building our house here, and there was a drywaller here, and real nice guy. And we got talking about men's mental health, and he said, "Man," he goes, "men scare me," because he goes, "Men are so fucking strong headed, and they're so." Because he goes, I've seen it. I've seen friends where there'll be a woman and they'll tell him, "Fuck off, I don't want you," and the guy will just go home and fucking kill himself. Like that's men suffer in silence. They don't reach out. They don't get help, and guys just go home and do it. And lots of times you just feel like you're by yourself. There's no one there, and he goes, and we need to be better for each other. We need to be there. And here's the whole thing. He went through this period of self-discovery and hit bottom and he was going to kill himself. And he didn't. But he said, he's had friends over the years that have. And he goes, men are just terrible that way. Like we won't reach out. We won't talk to our buddies. And that's one thing that you've always inspired me about. Shane Pellister did the same. Is that just knowing that you had somebody you could call if you needed to. But I've gone through dark times in my life too, and just it's fucking hard, man. It's fucking hard to pick up that phone and say to your buddy, "Hey, I need help here. I'm in trouble." So I want to hear about your bottoming out and how you sort of what you did to get through it.
Yeah, it was a time I'll never forget, that's for sure, even though sometimes you'd like to. But like I say, I was in a remote northern community of like about 300 or 400 people, dead of winter, very little daylight going on. I had a whole bunch of other real heavy external situations going on in my life, like a lot of trouble at work, a lot of relationship issues. Like everything was a really tough time. And then you added on this massive depression that I was in. And there was days on end I couldn't get out of bed, physically couldn't get out of bed. Like I think it literally physically affects your joints and your bones and stuff, like aches and pains. And then there's just like the ache of this like existential sadness inside of you that's really unexplainable. The only thing that would get me out of bed would be my dog, that I would feel so bad for him that I would literally drag my ass out of bed and at least take him for a half-hour walk every day. And that was the only time I could get out of the house. But for me, I had used in the past, through my young adult life, I used a lot of marijuana to numb out, to dissociate, to not deal with my emotions and my feelings, alcohol to a certain degree. So the first thing I did was cut that shit out and start to try and get healthy. And when you are in a situation like that, it can seem pretty much impossible. And I knew that I didn't have the skills to navigate it on my own. And so I'm really proud of myself and feel very lucky, I guess, that I had enough wherewithal to actually reach out, like you were saying, that quite often we don't do. And luckily, the company I work for really stands behind their employees when it comes to mental health and stuff like that. And so I found this really great facility on Vancouver Island that was a mental health facility. And I had to swallow my pride, man, and just like, you got the rest of your life to look forward to, like it was only like 40 years old. I got a lot of living left to do. So I went down to this place for a couple months, and It was just incredibly beautiful, supportive community. And one of the beautiful gifts about going to a place like that is you're surrounded by all these other people who are going through the same thing. It's like one of the byproducts, of depression is this sense of isolation and loneliness. But when you're all of a sudden there's, 100 other people that are like, yeah, I know how that feels. Oh, I've been there too. And they're telling you experiences, and you're all like, wow, we're all in this together. We can all relate. So, I I had made a lot of really great relationships and friendships in there. There were some really amazing uh, practitioners and therapists and staff and stuff in there. And I just really learned a lot of really great tools to deal with my problems, or, the obstacles or the hardships that you go through in life in a healthy way going forward, instead of falling back onto old patterns. And yeah, when you come out of a place like that, there's this period of time where you have these like rose-colored glasses on, where it's like you think you got life by the balls, and you got her all figured out. And it's like, man, that's really just the first step in the process. A lot of the learning and the growth that you're going to incur happens after that. But you have the tools, and strategies, and resources going forward to make better decisions. And yeah, I mean, for me, physical health was a major pillar, for me. um, Staying abstinent from smoking a bunch of pot and drinking all the time, getting really healthy, getting into nutrition, uh, starting a really intensive like workout routine, CrossFit every morning, getting out, getting fresh air, going for walks, just being healthy. Routine is a huge thing. Getting up early, like it sounds dumb, but like making your bed every day, like simple things like that. It's not that making your bed is gonna like make you feel better, but if making your bed is a commitment that you make to yourself, that's like is in alignment with like making a commitment to yourself about living a healthier lifestyle, then by doing that every day, you're reinforcing that belief, and you're staying committed, and you know you're being responsible. And um what else? I really got into doing breath work, meditation, uh a lot of things like that comes with mental health is that you're always in your head, you're ruminating, you're thinking about that stupid thing you said, or things that you regret, or how you wish something went the other way. There's this tendency to be always in your head. And you know I think touching back on like a lot of those older type of philosophies and mentalities about like uh say yoga and meditation and breath work and all these modalities, they're all about getting you out of your head and into your heart space. Because being in your head all the time, you know we there's a lot of really beautiful sort of inherent knowledge and intuition that exists within inside of your heart. I know that kind of sounds a little bit weird, but um, we've all been there in those situations where we've had a big decision to make, and people are like, "Well, follow your heart." Like this, that saying has substance and basis, right? Um, yeah, I just everything I did over the last, 5 years has really been in an attempt to tap into that internal wisdom and knowledge and be healthy. I've gone to like some retreats and stuff, like some men's groups where just a bunch of dudes just sit around and just talk bullshit. It's awesome. Like, you wouldn't believe it. It's just like it's just the everyday crap that we go through, but you have a platform or an avenue to kind of like get it off your chest. And it's like, no matter what you're going through, there's another guy there that's always been, or it has been like, fuck man, I just dealt with that last week, or I know what that's like. I was there a year ago, or, you know, there's just so much support in those things. And I've done some like psychedelic stuff in ceremony that's been big. Yeah, just a plethora of different things, really. I mean, I can't sit here and tell somebody what would work for them. It's like you got to follow your own heart and do your own research and figure out what speaks to you. But I mean, there's all these different things out there. What worked for me wouldn't work for someone else necessarily.
Justin, one of the things you talked about last time you were on was your connection to the natural world, like hunting and the outdoors, and even, you know, the goat too. Like that was a thing, and that sort of was transformative for you. Um, did you always grow up like as a hunter? Like, was that always a path that you were on? Just talk a little bit about that connection to the natural world, and I know that that's a big, and it's certainly an inspiration for you too. Like, I know that you do a lot of writing and beautiful writing and share a lot there. And I think you're really inspired by events or being in the outdoors. So just touch on how important that is, because I feel like that's a part of your journey too.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it's probably the biggest reason why I'm involved with the Wild Sheep Society, and in conservation, because it's not about, for me, it's not about let's make more sheep so that we can go hunt and kill more sheep so we can put sheep heads on our wall. Like, it's a little bit more than that to me. It's that it's in those opportunities that we get to go out into the mountains where we really feel that connection to something that's much bigger than ourselves. Like, I've always found it really interesting that you can go in the mountains and they could at the same time like empower you, you know what I mean? Like, but also make you feel like small, like insignificant. Like, you can feel like a part of something so much bigger than ourselves, but yet at the same time they can like humble you and make you feel small and insignificant. And I think that's really important, to gain that kind of perspective. And I've always, ever since I was just a little kid, I've always just had this, been drawn magnetically to the outdoors, to hunting. My dad used to, I probably started out how most people did, like going for drives with my dad and chasing grouse down the road with a BB gun, and one day graduating to a 22. And my dad would, as long as my grades were really good, I had to have A's and B's in all my classes. He would take me out of school for a week at a time, when I was in like grade 6, 7, 8, through those kind of years. And he would take me out into the woods with him, and we would spend a week together out hunting in the woods. And I feel like I learned more about who I was, learned about life, learned about nature, learned about all these other really important components of life, not just say reading and writing, and but my dad was more of kind of just he hunted to put meat on the table for the family. I'm sure he has a connection to it, but the mountain hunting part is something that I kind of got into on my own. I was really always had this longing and this draw to be in the mountains. And like you say, that's for some reason when I'm up in the mountains, that's really where the creativity flows through me for my poetry and my writing, and I have these really beautiful kind of insights and realizations about life, and I always just feel so recharged when I come home. Like I feel invigorated, I feel inspired, I feel connected, and that's why I support conservation, because if we lose those opportunities, it's like we're almost losing a part of ourselves. And I feel like it's a fundamental human right that we all should have the opportunity and the right to experience that if we so wish. I know that everyone doesn't relate to it the same way, but I know a lot of people do, yourself included. And I feel like everyone that sits on the board with us to some capacity has that, those big, I think they call them peak experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Those moments that we have out in nature and out in the mountains that fundamentally change us.
Very cool. Interesting. I've never heard him call that actually peak experiences, or maybe I have, but never put two and two together. So it's really neat that you've drawn that parallel for me. Um, uh, Justin, you've mentioned this in the past. I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about it tonight about, and I know that goat doesn't define you. It certainly doesn't, but I feel like that experience was transformative for you. And you've mentioned in the past, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I want to hear it from your perspective, but something about, it was almost meant to happen to you. It was you almost feel like there was some sort of higher power or something at work that caused that event to sort of point you in a certain direction. Can you talk a little bit about that and that experience and how important? And I know that that's not the only. There's lots we've talked about here tonight. It doesn't define you, but I also feel like it's been an important part of your journey.
Yeah, I mean, we wouldn't be sitting here talking right now if it didn't happen. That was the catalyst, I suppose, for my entry or introduction into conservation. But yeah, at the time when I got that mountain goat, that I was kind of right in the thick of things, as far as like coming out of the depression and getting off the pills and dealing with all that heavy shit. And I had kind of been going through the ringer for about 2 years, just heartache after heartache and all this heaviness. And I was like, man, could you just give me a break here? Like, give me something, just something to be like happy for, like grateful for, like, something, a bright spot in my life. Um, and I had this longing and this urge to kind of go back up north, to where it all kind of started for me. And uh, yeah, the way that hunt unfolded, like, it it was in a spot I didn't know that goat was there. Like, it was just a totally random, a seemingly random experience. We got on the goat. We were sitting there, and it was like, man, where I was hunting, it's honestly one of the most beautiful places I've ever been. Like, I wrote a poem about it when I was. That's the funny thing is, we were sitting there, and this goat was in a spot where I couldn't necessarily get a shot at it, and it was like, okay, well, we're just sitting here, and we're waiting and waiting and waiting, and I just, all of a sudden, it just occurred to me, like, it's like I was sitting there, but I didn't realize like what was actually going on. I just like it's like I woke up, for lack of a better word, in that moment, and I just like looked around me, and I was like, holy shit, like look at where I am, look at what I get to do, look at this place, look at how lucky I am. Like, it was like I was able to shift from like all this, heaviness from all the stuff I've been going through into like seeing it as all an opportunity for growth. Like, I was able to in that moment look at it as something positive. And I just had so much gratitude in my heart that I just like whipped out my notepad and I started writing poetry about this freaking mountain goat that I was looking at. And, for anyone who's read the story, I got that poem put into the story. It was pretty neat. And then, yeah, the goat, it got up and it walked away, and I thought it was gone forever. And then I was losing my mind. And then, it was a big ordeal, but we ended up getting it. And, I didn't even know, I didn't know what I had. I knew it was a nice goat, but had no idea it was a world record. And then obviously when I got back to town and some people got looking at it and we figured out what we had, then life just, it really changed a lot for me. Um, when I went down to Reno, that was really transformational. Because the funny thing is I had this this very strong desire, let's say, that I wanted to give something back to hunting because it had given me so much in my life, but I didn't know how, how it would look like, what I would do. Like, I had no idea. And then I went to Reno to the sheep show to have the goat scored. And that was my first exposure to like the conservation community. And it was amazing. Like, I just was like, these are my people, man. This is my tribe. Like, I just felt this instant connection to everyone there. And they were just salt of the earth, like so genuine, so humble, so nice. And yeah, that's where I met you. And the of course everyone wanted to know like the story about the goat, and that's really what got me writing. That's what started me writing, which writing has been obviously a big part of my life over the last 5 years. Um, it kind of like it got me out of my shell. It, you know, I'm a pretty quiet guy, and all of a sudden I was in the spotlight, had my 15 minutes of fame, but I had to like come out and meet the world, and I felt like I had a moral obligation, a responsibility to like conduct myself with integrity and humility, and be a representative for hunting, for conservation, because I feel like there's a lot of people out there that have a stereotype around, like, although I'm not a trophy hunter, I think people would probably jump to the conclusion because I have a world record mountain goat, that I'm a trophy hunter. And so I felt it was like very imperative that I conduct myself in such a way to show people that that's like the furthest reason from why I'm out there, and for why so many of us are out there, that it's much deeper than that. And so I guess um I just wanted to represent hunters and conservationists in a light that would reflect, kindly upon us, and so that other people could like maybe understand why we're actually out there, and maybe have a little space for us, and you know not be jumping to conclusions and formulating their own ideas and opinions about why we're there, and wanting to have things shut down and taken away from us. Like, it's important to me that those opportunities remain, not just for myself but for future generations and for everyone. So
That's awesome. Um, one thing So you've gone through, you've talked about your journey and pieces of it. We've just touched on a few of them, but um, my understanding now is you're focused on giving back. Well, obviously, you're doing that to the board and conservation, but you're also, I think, you're trying to find ways and venues and ways to reach out and support other people that have sort of gone through some challenging or are going through some challenging times. I know that, the last podcast you and I did together, you had a lot of people reach out, wanted to talk about their journey and their experiences and how they were feeling. And I think now that you're doing some coaching and stuff like that too. Can you touch on that a little bit, Justin? And is that part of your healing journey too? Do you feel like that's helping you to grow as a person and helping you through challenges that that we all still go through from time to time?
Yeah, I think, when you like come on and like say do something like this and come and share like these like, pretty pretty raw, pretty vulnerable, pretty intimate details about your life. It's like what that sort of does, I guess, is like it allows like even a greater level of acceptance within yourself for it, I guess, because um yeah, I could sit there and I could hold all this shit in and not tell anyone, but would that be doing the world any good? Like, no, I think that if you manage to overcome something and get through something like this that other people are struggling with, it's kind of incumbent upon you. And like, if you want to be like a good human being, it's like, yeah, share your story, let other people know. Like, it's not the end of the world. Um, and there definitely has been this inclination along the way that, yeah, I definitely, I'm still like trying to figure out what it looks like in what capacity. So I've been dabbling in a bunch of different things, trying to find my path. But yeah, I took a life coaching program this last winter, and that's pretty powerful. Um, I I'm not sure if it's if I'm going to become a full-time life coach or not, but definitely I like sitting down and having like some real and honest conversations about things, and life coaching is pretty funny. Like when I first heard of life coaching, the first thing I envisioned, it's like, oh, you're going to talk to someone who's got it all figured out and their life's absolutely perfect and they're going to tell you what to do. And nothing could be further from the truth. It's like actually one of the biggest number one rules of life coaching is you never give advice. Life coaching operates on the premises that we're all whole human beings. We're not broken. We don't need to be fixed, and that we all have the answers. We all have the answers that we need inside of ourselves. And so what life coaching does is just a open and honest conversation, looking at your values, looking at your beliefs, looking at your goals, and just finding a way, figuring out if you have like any blockages, any patterns, any things that are getting in the way. And I mean, it could be for adopting a healthier diet. It can be for implementing a workout routine. It can be how to talk to your kids more easily or have a better relationship with your coworkers. Like, it doesn't have to be like big heavy shit. It's just about opening your opening your eyes to the fact that there's like different ways of doing things. And so yeah, um if anyone is interested in any like coaching sessions, I guess you can always reach out to me on Messenger on Facebook's kind of the easiest way. um and also this summer I am trying to put together a trip into the mountains for the men's group that I'm a part of. Um, these are a bunch of guys from all over the province that aren't necessarily hunters. But the last 3 years, I've done these solo trips up into the mountains around Dease Lake. And I've had some like pretty profound experiences up there. Had some really great insights, experienced some really great growth. And I just feel like the mountains in that setting has such a profound opportunity for other people that maybe have never gone and done that type of thing, to experience what I've experienced. So I'm actually trying to put together a trip, hopefully for about 7 or 8 guys, that we're going to fly into an alpine lake, and I'm going to take them up on a plateau, and we're going to hike around in the mountains for 4 or 5 days and do some breath work, do some meditation, do some cold plunging, sit around, have some conversations and talk, maybe eat some mushrooms, like just get right into her, and just let nature do the rest. Like, yeah, it'll be pretty neat. So I'm hoping there's some interest there, and people will want to go out.
I'm sure there will be. Well, I want to say, it's not easy to talk about this stuff, and like you said, you use 3 words in one sentence: raw, intimate, and vulnerable. And it's not easy to have those conversations. It's not easy to talk about your feelings, especially as men, who we're supposed to be the strong, the brave, the pillars that are uncracking. I really respect you for your ability to open up, to share your feelings, to share your journey, to show your vulnerabilities, your weaknesses, and to talk about them and be honest and sincere about them, and help others. And we all need someone, and we all need help from time to time. And just realizing that it's normal, it's natural, it's a positive thing, and that you don't always have to be the strong one. That you can sometimes be weak. You can reach out. You can ask for help. And that's perfectly normal. So, awesome, dude. Incredibly inspiring, and really, really grateful. Is there anything we're missing here? Is there any closing thoughts, remarks, concepts that you want to share that we need to get that out?
No, I just would say, if there's, like you mentioned, this time of year is like, I don't know why, because I feel it too. It's a tough time of year. It's like hunting season's over. It's not. It's kind of the shoulder season. It hasn't fully shifted into winter yet. There's definitely that like huge drop in daylight. The weather's shitty. And then the holidays. Like, if everything's good, and you got a fully functioning, happy family that everyone gets along, well, Christmas is great, but we all know that that's, probably not the norm in a lot of people's cases. So holidays can be tough. And yeah, if you're feeling down or going through a tough time, like, I guess the biggest thing I could say is like, there's nothing wrong with you, man. Like, we all go through this shit. We're all going through it, holding it to ourselves. Find an outlet, a group of people, a community, somebody to talk to, a friend, a counselor, whoever, and just get it out, man. Because you holding on to that, it's just like a poison inside you. You're better off to get it out, and you hit the nail on the head that guys especially, it's like, we've been taught to look at it as a weakness of sharing your feelings, but like, I think we're kind of shifting a little bit, in that, like, guys, like, we do the tough things, we do the hard things in life, that's what we're drawn to. So look at this in the same light. Is talking about your shit hard? Yep. Is talking, about your feelings, like, tough? Yep. So be a fucking man and do it then. Like, if it's tough and it's hard, then do it.
Wow. Yeah. Wisdom, man. Wisdom. And I think it's twofold too. Like there's those that, probably need to reach out for help from time to time, and it's important to do that. But it's also incumbent on us to reach out to those people in our lives to make sure they're doing okay and check in and be there for them too. Because some people, it's not natural to do what you've done, Justin. And I think that showing some love and some compassion and giving people a little bit of slack when they're having a shit day, or you see someone and you can see they're struggling, then I think it's incumbent upon us to reach out and say, hey man, I'm here. I want to support you. Love you, brother. And do what we can to support those in our lives that maybe are struggling. And we see people and we don't always see what they're going through, and just a little bit extra love from now and then is not a bad thing either.
Yeah, it's that time of year. So I feel that's what Christmas is all about, or at least what it used to be about. Before it was just about how much shit you could buy. It was about, family, friends, and spreading the cheer. So yeah, that's a good advice going forward, I would say, in the holiday season here, is just be kind.
Yeah, well said, brother. Well, thank you so much for, I guess, being raw, intimate, vulnerable, being honest. Appreciate it, man. And I know it's not easy. And for those listening, you could probably appreciate that it's not an easy thing to talk about. And so hats off to you, Justin. I know it was really well received last time we did this, and I hope our listeners can take it for what it's worth, take some things away from it, maybe learn some things, and then just, too, I think you've said, Justin, reach out. If somebody needs to talk or wants some support, reach out to you, reach out to me. I do feel like we are a wild sheep family. We use that term a lot. We use it a little bit loosely, but I think it's accurate. I think that we come together in times of need. We've seen it a few times in our community when one of our members is real struggling. We probably don't do it enough, but sometimes we don't know either. So if we don't know that you're struggling, you need the support, then let us know, because there are people out there that care, people that love you. You are part of a community here. I feel like our Wild Sheep family is a benevolent, caring group of people that wants to look after our tribe, and we're here to help. So,
amen.